Hi, it's Janet Fitch, and it is Writing Wednesday, this um, weekly fireside chat about writing, and I am happy to take your questions as we go along. But I thought what I would talk about a little bit is how it's been to be writing as the storm. Hi, Violetta, as the storm rages outside. As some of you know, I've started a new novel, maybe, and I've been working on it pretty steadily. I have a writing group that seems to be expanding. We're adding more people, not for criticism, but just for daily writing practice every day. We start at 11 and we go till we get together at 11 and then start at 11:30 on um, one of these video chat things. And we write until, remember I was talking about using the timer and writing in 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. This is what we're doing. So the first session is 2 hours roughly for 4 sessions of Pomodoro method. And then we take a half-hour break for lunch, which is not enough for me to make an elaborate meal or anything, but to chow down. And then another 4 25-minute on, 5-minute off session episodes in the afternoon. So I am writing from, say, 11 something to 4. And I had a crisis earlier in the week of just, I don't care about this. I don't see a way through. It seems dead to me. What am I doing writing about, some woman and her problems and her mother and her daughter and so forth? What do I care about that? Hi, Jeffrey. Hi, Toby. Uh, what do I care about that in these times? It just seemed flat and dead to me. But there was something about the 6 day, we're doing it 6 days a week, and people are joining, other writers. Hi, Ruthie. Um, and I know that they're there. I know that they're writing. I'm actually taking the morning off to do this and just to sit outside because it's a really nice day. um, And I knew I needed to think of something to work on. And there's been a lot of debate of whether you should write compulsively when you don't have anything in mind, that maybe this is a good time just to chill, to watch TV, to clean your drawers, to think about man, God, and the universe. Um, for me, the structure of writing every day is saving my life. So there I was yesterday with absolutely no idea where I was going to move to. As everybody knows, I don't outline. So when I started working yesterday, it's like, I don't have a thing. I had finished a chapter, little chapterette or scene, and I had just no idea what the next one would be. I had written something that just milled around and did nothing. And so I jettisoned it. It's like, okay, this is not interesting me and it's not going anywhere. And it's not dealing with the central themes that I'm working with. I knew that much. And I just stared at it. I go, where's the juice? What's this really about? Where is the next scene that's going to have conflict? Looking for the conflict rather than meeting random people at a hotel bar. Random people at a hotel bar is not going to put pressure on your protagonist. So I started something that brought her back to her central problem that she just can't walk away from, and milled around a little bit, but then I was back in it. It saved my life. So these tools that I've been talking about in Writing Wednesday, write in scenes, don't meet and greet, a scene, look for that conflict, and then stay with it until something emerges, till something happens. It saved my life. And writing is saving my life. I mean, people could say it's just a compulsive behavior, and you can certainly write a book. I've written books that never came together, you know, 300 pages, and it just never come together. But now I know if I stay on it, and if I stay where the conflict is, and I don't freak out, lose heart, feel like there's nothing happening, I just can't make it move forward. A lot of that is just calming down, just calming down and not prognosticating. If you feel, you know, when I felt that I had gone wrong, it would have been, hey, Miranda, hey, Tony, hi. It would have been easier to maybe back up a step or two, get rid of the stuff that seemed like it was milling around, or creating new characters, meeting people at a random bar, that kind of thing, and just going back to where the central conflict is. Maybe there will be scenes in between for, you know, yeast, for air. I know a lot of you are baking right now. I'm baking, but it's not rising. I'm a better writer than I am a baker. We're still eating. It's like a brick. But uh, but going back to the central ideas of this writing in scenes, something, put pressure on the character and their, you know, where their vulnerabilities are, their psychological weak spots, putting pressure there, and then staying with the scene until something happens, something changes, is saving my life. And writing every day for with these writers for several hours. And I know they're there, they're right, it's live 6 days a week, they're on. And then on the 7th is my writers group, the crit group. So I have things to write about. That's really been helping. And I think that people who are not writers, who are find themselves at home and are looking for some structure, have, you know, people who've been interested in writing and maybe haven't tried it out, doing a little writing is might be a good addition to your day. But for writers, are we hiding in our work? Is this hiding? Well, think about how most people become writers. I mean, most people become writers because they're readers. Why were they readers? Usually it's because in childhood life sucked in some, you know, maybe you were just a super imaginative kid. That's possible. But a lot of us became readers because reading was so, you know, so much more interesting. Tony was saying her critique groups have been doing Zoom meetings. Yeah, we have too. But we're also writing in real time. It's fantastic. But we became writers, I mean, readers, as a way to get out of this unpleasant thing called reality and into something a lot more interesting and less painful. Maybe the protagonist, it was painful for the protagonist, but it was a lot less painful for me as a young reader to read about horses and pirates and, you know, queens and who knows what else. And is it hiding to write a good swath of the day? No, I don't think so. I think it is writing it during a time of plague like this. Hey, Steve. Hi, Christy. Writing at times like this is a time that we practice what writers do, which is detach themselves from the moment to moment chaos of the world and hold something stable in our minds and give it enough psychic energy that it lives on its own. So it is a place to go. It is an actual place that you go, and you are both a participant and a creator there, you know. You're the screenwriter, you're the director, you're the actors, you're everything. Now, wanted to talk a little bit about the literature of plague, the literature of times like this. I saw an interesting article that my friend Toby Crockett posted about the art of the Black Plague. So we're talking about, 1300s. And what happened after the Black Plague, which was, they didn't know what a virus was, they didn't know how to wash their hands, they didn't know anything, right? Um, and it began a very conservative time. Like they were starting to move towards the Renaissance. And then the plague came and they went back to, really, really traditional work. And it took another 100 years for the innovation of the Renaissance to start happening again. It's like the seeds were coming up, and then so it's a question about, if you're just starting something, or as you're working on what you're working on, to think about, are we working in traditional forms? Does that feel more safer? Does that seem like a more solid ground to us? Or is this an interesting time to try an innovation? I mean, if you're not in the middle of work, if you're looking for a project, if you haven't been writing, say you've been in that law firm for so long, you just don't have time to concentrate, or your, whatever your job is. And you suddenly find yourself with the time and you've always been interested. It might be a good time to try an innovative form. I've talked about this form in some of these Writing Wednesday videos. To read something innovative, I like Markson, I like Carol Mazo. Marguerite Duras is quite an experimentalist. There are a lot of people writing now. I love this woman, Lindsay Drager, the Sorrow Proper, as ways of maybe trying a different form. I feel like I don't want to necessarily go. I wrote a 19th century novel. The Revolution Marina M was really a 19th century novel. Marina M and Chimes of a Lost Cathedral. They had modern thoughts because it's me and I'm writing at the beginning of the 21st century. But as in form, it was conventional, chronological, because it was historical. I thought if I got too an anachronistic or broke chronology, people would be utterly lost. So for that novel, that was the correct form. But now I'm thinking, to try pushing it a little bit, to try innovating a little bit more, so that I don't feel like I want to write about these times directly. Novelists are very slow in processing things, usually after or during a big upheaval. The poets react first. They're very quick because they're dealing just with their immediate thoughts, feelings, sensations, a moment. So you're going to see the poetry of this time is going to be exceptional, written now. Then the short story writers will come next. And then you will see the novels of quarantine, etc., coming out maybe 10 years from now. So you think about the Vietnam War. The poets were in there first. The nonfiction writers were in there first. Then the short story writers. And then finally the novels of the Vietnam era started coming out about 10 years later. Starting to read The Plague by Camus. Linda, hi Linda, to read The Plague by Camus. It's not a slog. Camus was in my humble opinion, the best writer of the existential movement. He was a real novelist. He wasn't a preacher. He wasn't a philosopher. He was a novelist. And The Plague is wonderful, but pretty severe. I don't know. You might enjoy it. If so, go ahead. Check them out. See what you think. It's But it's like, here's a question that Julie has. Hi, Julie. What if we are feeling so anxious we aren't working on our manuscripts? Yeah. Anybody anybody feeling that? I can't imagine anybody not feeling that. If you're working on a manuscript and you're just too anxious to work on it, try an exercise. Work from a prompt. Do 2 pages, double space. I'll give you a word from my words if anybody needs an exercise. Do 2 pages double spaced using this word somewhere in the 2 pages. And start with the word. Don't start with your story. Start with the word. So the word is knob. Okay? The word is knob. So what you do is you make a list of the things that knob suggests to you. So knob. The knob on an old TV set. Radio. The knob on top of a bone. There's the dirty version of knob. So think about the different kinds of knobs. Knobs on the spaceship on Star Trek, all the different kinds of knobs. Then look at your list of knobs and then say, then feel, which one calls to you. And then write that. 2 pages double spaced, and then just use the word somewhere in there. So little exercises. If you're feeling too anxious to work on your manuscript, it's always a dance with your psychic well-being, your emotional self. You have to be really in tune and notice when the anxiety starts to go down. It's like, yeah, do more of that. When you see the anxiety coming up, it's like, no, that's, we can't deal with that. So if you're feeling too anxious to work on a manuscript, work on a story, work on a poem, write a poem. Just a thought, developing a thought, work in a form, write a sonnet, write a ballad, pick something out of the newspaper. So distance yourself a little bit from it, and that's helpful. Severe how? We're talking about Camus. Camus is a very stringent guy. There's not a lot of laughs in Camus. If you like a richer experience, this is an intense experience, but there's not a lot of changes of mood. He stays in that mood. He'll stay there. It's not what I would be looking for right now. I'm missing people. I'm a real people person, and I'm so glad to be talking to you guys, because you guys are it. I haven't been out of the house. I have been out of the house under cover of terror. I have been out of the house, and then I count the days that I've been safely home to see if I'm in the clear. Oh God, it's just been... So I am happy to be talking to you guys. Everyone knows that life isn't worth living. Yeah, right. That's what I want to read. I like the Stoics. When things are good, I like to be, bringing joy to the, being part of the system of joy. And then when things get rough, I look to the Stoics, and the Stoics are like, they believe that if there's something if you can't do anything about something, it should be a matter of indifference. That's a tall order, but I find it soothing anyway. So start to notice what's soothing. What you're reading is bringing you to. I'm finding in working on this, whatever the hell I'm working on now, I don't even want to say whether it's a novel, but I'm finding more humor in it than I probably would have 15 years ago. It's not a character is not in an easy situation, but I'm finding more corners of humor in it than I'm surprising myself. I mean, it's not a comedy, but it's going to have a lot of the comedic in it. For some reason, that I'm finding that enjoyable, and I want to share that. I figure now is the time for natural loners. We're not expected to act sociable. We can just stay home and write. Yeah, yeah. It's good for you guys. And people like me are just, I find a good phone call with somebody who is not an anxious person is very helpful. There's certain people that you have to look at your emotion. You know, if you interact with someone and you feel worse, then you know that's a person, handle that with care. Whereas if you notice you call so-and-so and you laugh and it feels like, oh, normality, there will be normality after this. I still have a life. I still have friends. I can't see them right now, but they're still out there. And you have to just be in really good tune with yourself. But having this daily writing practice with the other writers saved, if you ever see this book, in a few years, it will be because of this daily writing practice. And thinking about the literature of the future, what is the literature after this? How is this, how does this affect us? I mean, there's something about anybody taking a zillion Zoom meetings, it's like all those little squares. I mean, how would that translate into literature? Those little squares, I have them on the brain. I see them. How is it? I think that it's not. People are saying, "Oh, don't force yourself to write if you're feeling anxious. This is a good time to plant food and play with the kids and dress up like famous museum paintings in a museum and post them online." And it's definitely a time to have fun if you can figure out a little levity, some fun. That's a wonderful thing. I think it might be a time of comedy. You think about the Great Depression. It was a time of musicals and comedies. And maybe we will be seeing more comedy coming out of this time in literature. It's been a while since we've had a great era of comedic writing. There's, more and more, it's a memoir. We live in the great era of the memoir. But I'm definitely one who argues for taking the raw material of your life and kind of transmuting it through these unconscious processes, like taking a random exercise, writing about a photograph, writing about, who knows what, and allowing that emotion and that psychological structure that is you to come out in a more unconscious way. I think that you never use up your material if you're writing fiction. If you're not a fiction writer and you want to write your memoir, you want to write fiction or memoir, you can't decide what, probably memoir is better for the non-writer. Because it's more forgiving in many ways, although great memoir is, fabulous. It's a good time to play with language, play with sentences. Somebody online is doing live videos of diagramming sentences, which was a horror. I mean, I remember Miss Shade in John Burroughs Junior High. Anybody from JB? She used to wear paisley shoes and cut her hair real short. She was a Latin teacher, and she taught English, and she had us diagram sentences, and it was like, why would I want to do that? This is horrible. But since I've become a writer, I've become much more interested in sentences. And it's fascinating to see how sentences are created. And then if you do that, you start asking yourself, can I make a more interesting sentence? Or all of my sentences are structurally the same thing? You know, can I mix it up? Can I have a more, you can see from the structure, you know, this is a more interesting sentence. If you're looking for interesting sentences, Styron. You want to see a complex sentence, take a look at Sophie's Choice. And I don't mean read Sophie's Choice at this moment, certainly. But take a look at his, like a paragraph, and how he constructs these incredibly complex, beautiful sentences. Like, what's the root of it? And then how does he add on to that to make this very subtle meaning? It's amazing. And that's really worth doing. So, anyway, let's see what else is going on. I get freaked out when I go to the grocery store. No kidding. Okay, Jeffrey says, months ago I started writing a novella and took a break until the quarantine began, and showed my progress to the writing friends, and one of them said the tone had changed and the main characters seemed to feel like different people altogether. Oh, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. It means that they're still with you, and they're alive, and they're changing as you are changing. I wouldn't necessarily go back and change anything. You might want to just circle things, or if it's still in the computer, you know, say, take another look at this, you know, but keep going with the tone you have and the concerns you have. It's like in wine, people who make wine, there's something called terroir, which is the way the wine kind of represents the soil that it's being grown in and the weather conditions, but especially the soil, the minerals, the acid level, the exposure of the hillside. And what's going on now, history, our time, is a terroir that these novels and stories are growing out of, because we are living through this. There's not a story separate from the human being who is creating the story. So the fact that your novella is expressing the terroir of the times is a very, very good thing, a very important thing. So, you know, just keep it going. And then when you get to the end, novella is a fabulous length. It's like 85 pages, 50 to 85 pages. So it's very containable. You'll get to the end, and then you'll be able to start again and move that tone through it. And so even if it's not about these times, it's going to express the times. It's definitely going to mark our work. Ruthie's seeing a lot of comedy and music being created in people's living rooms. Yeah. Diagramming sentences. I will, when broadcast is over, I will look up a good site and put it in comments, or even, put it in comments so you can look for it, and there will be that resource. Hi, Tracy. So if there are no more questions, okay, what will we be seeing a year from now artistically? I think that we will be seeing comedies. I think there will be rafts of interesting poems. Actually, right now, I'm already seeing some really interesting poems, really responding to what I need right now. So that is going to be great. Um, I don't think you will be seeing um, novels yet about this. If you are, it's going to be really slapdash. You'll see memoir, but not novels. You will see, but you will see the effect if people are still working on those books. You might see the effect of this time. Um, let's see, something else. Advice. What else can I tell you? Okay. I can't get into my manuscript. I'm being called every night by the grandkids to tell them bedtime stories. Ruthie says, well, maybe it's a time to write children's stories. I bet there's going to be a lot of children's stories coming out of this because people who have been busy, under pressure, I'm sure you've been reading to your kids all along, but I think there's going to be a lot more reading of children's books, not just little kids' books, but chapter books the whole family can enjoy being read right now. So I would not be surprised to see some incredible children's stories coming out of this period. And if you're feeling too anxious to write, your manuscript about, somebody's impending death from cancer or whatever, severe topic you might have picked. If you feel like writing a children's story, I wouldn't be surprised that we're going to see a lot of that. And it's Neil says it's National Poetry Writing Month. NaPoWriMo. So I was talking about National Novel Writing Month, which has a stay-at-home Remo that's going on right now on the internet with stress, help with stress and exercises and writing rooms. It's fantastic, and it's National Poetry Writing Month. So write a poem a day for a month. So Neil was when I took a poetry writing workshop at Squaw Valley, when I finished Marina M. He was in my group, and poetry is a fabulous way to respond to the moment, to your feelings, to things that you notice. It's a way it's almost a notebook, but it also has its own form in music and sharpens your awareness of language. So even if you're a fiction writer, the poetry is a fantastic way to go. All right, well, if there are no more questions for me, is your daily writing practice a closed group? Yes. Yeah, it's small and it's published authors, and but it would be a good thing to gather with others. Look at all these people. They're all on Facebook. Maybe y'all want to get a timed writing sessions together where you just go on, get a Zoom together or Skype or Hangouts and say, okay, we're going to get together at 10 and we're going to write from 10 to 1 and do it as a private message, because there are these lunatic people who are popping into people's Zooms and, putting all kinds of garbage on it. So keep your ID private, the logins, just between in a group. So we usually, the most we have is maybe 10 at a time. But I'm sure you can go more, or see what the NaNoWriMo has in terms of their writing breakout rooms. They might have it already set up. So, that has been very helpful. So wine is my outlet. Yes, wine is always an outlet. Hi, Miranda. Okay, so I am going to wrap this up for this week, and I'll put what was I going to put up? Diagramming sentences. I will put up in the comments. I'll put up a link to some kind of um, uh, sentence diagramming thing. But I use I have regular composition books. I have regular composition books like English Composition. Doesn't that look like fun? By the Barnes & Noble College Outline series. I didn't take English. I was a history major. And they do have a whole thing in here about diagramming sentences. It's fascinating. Even if you can't do it well, it makes you think about sentences. There's a lot about sentences. I'm not writing essays for college exams or anything like this, but it has, let's see if I can find the diagramming sentences, so you can see how it works. I'm not very good at it, but it has, how that works. So maybe we can do that next week, is diagram some sentences. It's pretty funny. I should have a document camera, and then you can see what I'm doing. So thank you very much, and have a good week. Monitor your anxiety. Notice if it's going up. Notice what's causing that. And then stay away from that. Okay. Be safe, and we'll talk. Bye.